Hello my dear friends and welcome back to another Bad Batch breakdown. A double episode this week, fantastic ones, and they were emotionally very heavy ones. They really put us through the ringer. But I've got to say I think with these episodes the Bad Batch has reached a new level of awesomeness. We have a lot to talk about today guys, aside from some fantastic character development, lots of references to some other parts of the Star Wars universe like Solo a Star Wars Story, the Expanded Universe, and even The Mandalorian Season 1. And so today we're getting straight into it my dear friends, no jibber jabber, here we go. Episode 10, Identity Crisis, is all about Emerie and something we've known for a long time, that she would come to realise the truth about Hemlock and the true cruelty of the Empire. At the start of the season, Omega planted the seeds of redemption in her mind, the beginnings of doubt, that there's a life outside of this one, and she doesn't just have to go along with whatever Dr. Hemlock says. And in this episode, she is learning to actively resent what's going on Tantiss, what the Empire is doing to younglings, Force sensitives, and the harm they're imposing to innocent life. At the beginning of the episode, Hemlock is working on the Dark Trooper program. You can see on his datapad, it's Phase 0. The clone assassins, CX-1 and 2, were just the start of this. Emerie comes to meet him, and he makes her the chief scientist. And so she is briefed about Project Necromancer, and that is when she finds out the specimens being used for their blood with a high M count are young Force sensitives. But they're just children, which shocks Emerie. That's when the alarm bell starts sounding in her mind, and every red flag she had is raised to full mast. She then asks, why don't they use adults? Why is it just these kids? And Hemlock replies, because there are very few adults left with those characteristics. A small nod to Order 66. Because the vast majority of Force sensitives are taken to the Jedi Temple for training from a young age, most adult Force sensitives were already Jedi, and thus killed in the Purge. Padawans and younglings were killed too, but there are still discoverable, non-Jedi Force sensitive children without training out there in the galaxy, which this episode shows, and they're the ones the Empire is after. On top of this, he says that children are easier to attain, they cooperate much better, and he reveals the true purpose of Omega, being a vessel for the high M count possessed by these specimens. The young clone's blood is the only binder proven to be compatible with their DNA to recreate their M count levels, because they can't be replicated from the source. These young children, who are Force sensitives kidnapped from their families, all just want to go home, and that is the real tragedy of the episode. Even though they have blood taken from them and they're being experimented on, they don't understand the full ramification of why they're there. They don't get it. Before Nala Se was arrested, the Kaminoan was in charge of them, and they're wondering where she's gone. She promised them she would find out when they would be let out, when they'd be allowed to go home, which of course we know is never. Emerie goes to visit Nala Se, who's in custody, and who Hemlock doesn't trust. She tells Emerie she has more of a responsibility than she thinks, and that while Emerie at first says there's nothing she can do, Nala Se puts onus on the fact she does have a choice. She can act before it's too late, if she wants to. And this is a real turning point in the mind of the Doctor. It sets into motion Emerie going against the wishes of Hemlock and putting her foot down, and I think she's going to be crucial to Omega's second escape from Tantiss. Emerie's kindness is starting to show, with the fact that she misses Omega and gives Eva her makeshift Tuka doll that Omega made during her first day. And there is a fascinating parallel in this episode that is made between the children, who are treated just like lab animals or just specimens, and Emerie's upbringing. She sees herself in the likes of Eva, the young Iktochi, the same species as Jedi Master Saesee Tiin. Emerie, just like those children, was trapped and forced to work in a lab against her will her entire life, since she was young, and taken under the wing of Hemlock. And for this reason, her having this awakening is what makes me think she might be the hero of the story by the end of Season 3. I can see a full redemption coming. Now one really interesting Easter egg is that one of the children, the one who tries to escape, is called Jax. There have been a few Jaxes in the Star Wars universe including a clone cadet, but I think they named this one after Jax Pavan from Coruscant Nights. In the Expanded Universe, Jax was the Padawan of Evan Peel who survived Order 66. They're not the same character, but I think that's the name of the character they took inspiration from. Now an important subplot that takes place in this episode is how the Empire finds Force sensitive children across the galaxy and abducts them. Cad Bane, and of course Todo 360 voiced by Seth Green, are sent to capture an adorable baby from a planet who considers his force abilities to be an oddity. So much so, an Aquilish vendor turns him in. And it's a tragic sight to see the child separated from its mother. And by the way, my dear friends, we've seen this species before. These furry sentients first appeared in Solo: A Star Wars Story in 2018, but they were never given a name. Maybe they're going to give us one in the full episode guide, and if they do, I want to make a separate video about this, because there are a couple of bits of interesting trivia from this episode concerning some of the species they chose to throw in. But did you guys notice they're also trying to demonstrate the ugly side of the Jedi Order, who did the exact same thing the Empire is doing, kidnapping Force-sensitive children, and often leaving their families distraught and heartbroken. The Empire is no different, although for very different purposes, but the impact on the families is the same. When Emerie goes to collect the asset and give Cad Bane his payment, she is shocked to find the Empire would take such innocent, young children. This one was so much younger than the specimens on Tantis. It was just a baby. The reviewers weren't kidding. We're seeing the most gruesome, immoral, dark side of the Empire on full display. But when Emerie asks Cad Bane how many of these jobs he's taken, he replies, "Let's just say I'm good at my job." He's done this hundreds of times. And considering the visual parallel with the young Force sensitive and the hovering pram, I wonder if they're trying to tell us that Cad Bane came across Grogu at some point, and is the one who took him from Keller and Beck. Is Cad Bane responsible for Grogu's mind going dark? Maybe we'll see Grogu on Tantis, but I think Star Wars just gave us an answer through subtle implication alone. So back on Wayland, Governor Tarkin, later Grand Moff Tarkin, wants to contact Hemlock. He's concerned about the amount of Imperial spending going towards Project Necromancer, and he has no idea what it is. He wants to know. Hemlock tells him it's classified and of great personal interest to the Emperor, so it's very, very important. Tarkin urges him that based on the cost, he better have some success to show for it soon, or else it's Hemlock that is going to suffer consequences. And this in my mind foreshadows Hemlock's upcoming death. Palpatine has no patience for failure, and if Omega manages to escape again at the end of the season, it's Hemlock's head. Hemlock contacts CX2, who mentions a Trandoshan that gave him intel. This, of course, is scummy old Sid, the unsurprising backstabber who told the assassin about the pirate, our friend Phee. He tracks her down, breaks into a ship, and finds out the batch is on Pabu. He goes there, the Empire invades the world, and he explodes the iconic Havoc Marauder that we saw in the TV spots. I brought it up in yesterday's video in my preview, and I guess that was very good timing. Wrecker is blown away in the explosion, but manages to survive, and AZ confirms his vitals are stable. We know he is back in next week's episode, so we know, at least for the time being, he makes it. It was also really great to see Shep and Lyana again, as well as the 3 former clone cadets, who until the Empire showed up, seemed to be enjoying a relaxing island experience and a snow cone or 2. But in searching for Omega, the Empire has destroyed so much of the peaceful island, and so in a decisive move, Omega decides they need to make a plan. While Wrecker is recovering, and Hunter himself survives an ordeal and makes it back to shore, Omega tells Crosshair she's going to turn herself in to prevent further issues. The plan is to keep a tracker on her person, so the brothers can track her back to Tantis. And as backup, Crosshair's job is to shoot a second tracker onto the ship, on CX2's ship. A plan Hunter would never have agreed to, and I think he's going to be very mad at Crosshair because of course it goes wrong. Omega has her tracker confiscated, and just as Crosshair was about to shoot a tracker onto the ship, he is distracted by a scuffle with stormtroopers. So Crosshair is unable to take the shot, Omega is taken, and the batch no longer have their ship, the Marauder. But at the end, Omega closes her eyes, as if to meditate and use the Force. Is she going to mind control CX2? Is that going to serve her in order to escape? Has she just tapped into something that is going to light the way for her future? Does this put her on track to train with a Sarge? Now I just want to take a minute to praise the Kiners for their incredible soundtrack that mirrored every one of our emotions. I had so much fun with these, a solid 10 out of 10 for both. This is Disney Star Wars at its best. And by the way, I think this was the first time Scorch is mentioned by name, and he's become absolutely awful. I know fans of Republic Commando want him to have some kind of redemption, but I'll be honest with you guys, I really don't see that in the cards for him. I could be wrong, but he's just an absolute awful person. Next week's episode, Juggernaut, which drops on my birthday, we'll see the brothers reunite with Phee, and probably a prison break kind of ending. But what did you guys think? Did you enjoy these episodes? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. May the Force be with you, always.